Well, hello everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another fantastic Wednesday Q&A time with esteemed voiceover actor Neil Kaplan. Let's see. Oh, 10 p.m. over in Spain. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. So hello Spain, hello Australia, hello New York. Hello to all the other states, to wherever you are listening or watching from. Um, Very, very, very happy and excited to have this guest here with us today. Um, I am doing a quick introduction for those of you guys who obviously know him from Digimon Adventure 2, Hawkmon, of course. But uh, some of the ones that I think are extremely notable include Titus Finlay in StarCraft. Let's see, the anime.
Hey,
Uh,
Steve. Steve.
hey, yes,
Steve. It's Tychus, like
Tychus.
Tuchus.
Tychus.
I can't
Tychus
let you
Finlay.
say Tychus. I can't
Okay.
let you say that. So, please continue.
All right, thank you. The anime Transformers Robots in Disguise, Optimus Prime. He played Optimus Prime. To him, I happen to be a very comic book type of person, so I loved learning that you also played Gorilla Grodd in Justice League Heroes, as well as Green Goblin in Spider-Man: Battle for New York. So yeah, I've never played either of those, but I am like uh,
Well, combining those two, Steve.
yes,
I was also Magneto in Disc Wars, the
right,
anime. Yeah,
exactly,
so so you got to throw Magneto in there, brother. And I
obviously.
and I was Venom.
Were you?
And yeah, in Marvel Universe, and um, oh, why am I blanking on his name? Wolverine's opposite.
Oh, Sabretooth.
Yeah, Sabretooth. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brr, yeah, so I was Sabretooth and Venom, and I think that's most of my comic book related characters. For some reason, I skew more Marvel than DC in the stuff that I've worked on.
Yeah. But I mean, still, okay. I have to ask: Did you ever meet Stanley?
Yeah, a few times.
Did you?
A few times. Yeah, once was literally we were in the elevator of my friend's hotel at San Diego Comic-Con. We were heading down, and Stan and his handler walked in, and my buddy and I were like, and we were the only four in the elevator.
Yeah.
And literally, like, we're sitting there doing the, like, fanning your own mouth with your fingers, going, oh my God, it's Stanley, oh my God, ah. And it's like, and toward the end, we're sitting there going, Stan, it's nice to meet, ride an elevator with you,
Oh
and
my
have
gosh.
a lovely Comic Con. I hope you're well. And his handler had to lean in and say, they said it was nice to meet you, Stan. And he said, oh, thank you. You know, a little not quite so Gilbert Gottfriedy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
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 And then another time, I was hanging out with a buddy of mine who runs the Tower of T-shirts booth at Comic Con and several other conventions. And I think this was WonderCon in Anaheim. And Stan came by with his phalanx of people. And then a third time was Nerd Year's Eve weekend in Dallas doing a convention which went bankrupt the weekend that it happened. And the only reason that anyone got paid any money they were owed by these shysters was because Stan dipped into his own pocket
Oh.
and told his people to pay everybody 10% of what they were promised. I mean,
Wow.
it's like, 10% isn't very much on the one hand, but on the other
Yeah.
hand, it's better than nothing. And on the third hand, because it's a comic book character, he can have three hands, it's Stan Lee doing, being a mensch.
Right.
But the beautiful thing about that was there was a roast that weekend. The roast itself wasn't so great. Michael Rooker was hilarious.
Mm.
But, it was roasting Stan on like his 93rd or 95th birthday or something like that. And it was
Yeah.
wonderful. And the person who was helping me with conventions at that time had actually worked for Stan for many years, so she slipped me into the Stan picture line, and like just before I got there, the group before me, the person, now remember, please do not touch, do not hug, do not touch,
Right.
do not crowd stand. That was pre-COVID days, when even then we were still going, the guy's in his 90s, please let's not give him any of your con crud, and he is frail, and some people don't know how to, like give 90-year-old hugs.
Right.
You can't give him a 30-year-old bro hug.
Yeah.
So, it's like they literally just made that announcement, and so Stan did some pose with the kids that were up there, and he's like looking at the people, his handlers, as the kids leave, and he's like shrugging, like I just do what they tell me to do.
Right.
So I walk up and I say, Stan, that's perfect. Will you shrug with me? And so it's a picture of me and Stan just shrugging, and it's two old Jews shrugging. And I got, it was fortunately in the more recent years of conventions when they printed the picture up right then and there, and I got it signed, and so I'm very happy to have a Stan Lee autographed two Jews shrugging.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have to ask, just because
Yeah.
I am such a fan, and I'm gonna fanboy for a moment. So
Okay.
I know you probably don't remember auditioning for it, but looking back on your history through IMDb, Galactic Battlegrounds Star Wars
Okay.
was your first Star Wars project.
Okay.
Now, do you remember how that even manifested? Like, did your agent ask you to audition for it? Did you know somebody who just got you into it?
No, I'm sure it came through my agency.
Okay.
I can remember details of the next game I worked on. I can remember a lot more details with regards to Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
The only detail I remember of Battlegrounds is that that's the only game I worked on that I actually played.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because Battlegrounds was actually simple enough for a numbnuts like me to be able to actually figure out and play.
Right. Wow.
These days I'll go to an occasional tournament, or I used to go to tournaments. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sigh. Where they'd play League of Legends or StarCraft 2 or Heroes of the Storm, and obviously one of my characters is used in some of those, and I like to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, the games are so good at this point, as people who play and stream on Twitch know, that they're entertaining enough to watch. You don't have to necessarily even play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what can I try to tell you, or did we already cover that with Star Wars?
No, that was excellent. I'm just jealous as all get out.
Well, that's me with our friends who actually have done some ADR in the movies,
Right.
or been on one of the shows, and it's like, I'd love to have done that.
Right.
I mean, I've got some friends who were on Clone Wars who look at some of my credits and go, I would have loved to have worked on that, and I shake my head and they go, but you were on Clone Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all fans of different things, and we all love different things. And look, I did a convention a few years back, MC in London, MCM.
Right. Yeah.
It was London Film and Comic Con.
Right.
And they could have sat me with a bunch of different groups. They had anime voice actors, they had Power Rangers, but they sat me with the Star Wars table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Like at one point in time, this dude came up with this giant trilogy re-release poster that used like the gold, silver, and bronze logos and whatever.
Yeah.
And this poster must have had, I kid you not, I don't know, I wouldn't be overestimating if I said about 400 signatures on it.
Holy mackerel.
It
Wow.
was just basically everybody who's ever been involved in any of the films.
Wow.
And he handed it to me, and before I signed it, I said, now, I will not be insulted if you don't want me to sign it.
Right.
But I haven't worked on any of the films. I only have done voices for the games.
Right.
And he gingerly took it back.
Oh.
No, 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 no.
Yeah,
I get it.
No,
I'm a
yeah.
collector myself. I have to respect that.
Yep.
I have people who like bring up Optimus Primes, and it's like before I sign, I go, "This is not the version I worked on. I'm happy to sign it for you."
Right.
But I don't want you to try to put it up on eBay and have somebody go,
Yeah.
"You ruined the value."
Exactly.
Or I don't want you to bring it to show and tell, or give it to your kid to bring it to show and tell. And it's Optimus Prime's autograph, and when somebody sees it's not Peter Cullen, I don't want your kid getting beaten up at school.
Right. Exactly.
So let's just be honest here, and let me tell you. And sometimes they take it back, and it's no harm, no foul. And sometimes they have me sign it, and every time they have me sign it, I always say the same thing. I'll sign small so you have plenty of room to get the other guys on there. Because that should be the goal.
Right.
But so anyway, at the Star Wars table, okay, to my right was Peter Mayhew, Kenny Baker,
oh my gosh,
and Jeremy Bullock. Okay?
Yes.
Jeremy kept picking on me all weekend long, and he was acting like my uncle, and it was the greatest thing.
Oh.
We had the greatest time. Kenny, unfortunately, left us 10 days later.
Oh.
And, the worst part of it was his assistant at one point in time asked me if I wanted a signed picture, and Kenny just didn't look like he was feeling well that weekend.
Yeah.
And I don't collect stuff because it's like if I did, I'd have no room for anything at this point.
Yeah.
So I just said, "Oh, no, thank you. That's really kind of you." And I leaned in and I said, "But if I did want to get something, I would get a picture from Time Bandits." and she looked at me sort of quizzically, and I said, "Because that was him.
Mm-hmm.
That was him in the movie."
Yeah.
I mean, I know he was in the suit for Star Wars because people tell me that, and I've seen the pictures.
Right.
But I saw him act.
Yeah.
In Time Bandits, and his portrayal of his character touched me. And she said, "You should tell him that." And literally, one of my only regrets from all my years of doing conventions is that I didn't say it that weekend.
Oh.
Yeah. One of my other favorite stories. I should continue with who else was at that table. To my left, David Prowse, who has since retired.
Wow.
Jeremy, of course, is retired. Gary Kurtz, who, of course, has passed away.
Yeah.
And the actress whose name escapes me, who played Mon Mothma in the original trilogy, not the recast one for Rogue One.
Right.
Who was, incidentally, brilliant friggin' casting, because you found her twin, Jiminy Christmas. So I was just sitting there, like, look, my head just swaying right and left when I wasn't signing stuff, just going, "Are you kidding? I'm here with, okay, sure." Yeah, that was fun.
I don't know if my research is correct. Genevieve O'Reilly?
Okay, that
Does
sounds
that sound
right.
familiar?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I just the whole weekend called her ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it's somebody you're just meeting and they're in their 80s,
right.
It's kind of hard to call them anything else unless they're a guy.
Yeah.
and you
Well,
call him sir.
before we get to questions that are
Yes.
starting to pile up, I must take a slight detour from acting
Okay. Okay.
and ask you this only because I saw it on your IMDb. So hopefully I'm not going to embarrass you. Um,
Uh-oh.
tell me about being a videographer on Star Trek: New Voyages and Protected. How did that happen?
I wasn't really a videographer so
Okay.
much, but um, what it was basically there was a that was written and directed by Mark Scott Zicree, and it was an original script that they had written for Phase 2
Okay.
when Phase 2 was still in discussions.
Right.
And it's a Sulu-centric story. So Phase 2 obviously was scrapped because kids like me wrote letters to Paramount and said, hey, this Star Wars is neat, but where's our Star Trek movie?
Right. Okay.
So
Hmm.
years and years later, Mark has this thing, networking table in LA, and I was involved with it for a couple of years. And so I basically, I think, brought my camera
Hmm.
to George Takei's house when we had a cast reading for the script, and so I read the stage directions.
Oh wow.
So if you go on my Facebook page, because you're my friend on Facebook,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a photo album called Me and My Friends, and there's a picture of me when I still had some color in my hair, and George Takei, and that was literally the Sunday before the William Shatner roast.
Oh,
And so he
that is
was,
so funny. Oh my
yeah,
god.
he was talking some Bill.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
yeah, and of course I had my own run-in with Bill.
Did you?
Yeah, run-ins.
Oh,
Yes,
boy.
two of them. Yes, one in which he ruined me. He killed the Trekkie inside me.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
no.
and the second was when I finally had a chance to confront him on it years and years later. So,
Mm.
yes.
So, oh my goodness. All right. So, couple of questions here for you, sir.
Alrighty.
Um, favorite Disney movie and why?
Um, you know, it changes. It's changed
Yeah,
so many times throughout my life.
it changes for
You
me too.
know,
Yeah.
um, I'll just go with the old reliable, my version of Old Yeller,
Okay.
which ends after Yeller saves the family at the fire. People tell me there are other scenes after that, but I don't believe them. And of course, the animated Robin Hood.
Okay.
The rumors about them remaking and making a new Robin Hood with quote unquote live action CGI animated animals,
Yeah.
I think is a horrible idea. I've been saying for years what I would love to see Disney do is I would love to see them, since they've been making live action versions of the animated classics, let's do the opposite. How about an animated absent-minded professor? How about an animated
Oh.
Shaggy Dog? How about an animated Johnny Tremaine or Dr. Sin, alias the Scarecrow,
Right.
or an animated Hot Lead and Cold Feet, or Pete's Dragon. I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
they've
Yeah.
got they've got so many wonderful scripts. I mean, if you really just want to, take your old and I don't necessarily have as big a problem with remakes as other people. I grew up on Broadway shows,
Did you?
and Broadway shows every 7 to 10 years, you didn't sit there and go, well, they already did Fiddler on the Roof.
Right.
No, you do a new one.
Sure. Right.
So, when we were kids, Disney had their animated films and they re-released them every 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So Disney barely ever made anything new.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that they're making new stuff is great. And what's wrong with a new version of an old story? I mean, as long as I wouldn't have had a problem with the quote unquote CG version of Lion King. I just kind of thought of it as, all right, it's a revival, just with new costumes and new sets and a new cast. Okay, they're using the same script. That's fine. I personally had a problem with. I finally figured it out on my second viewing. I love Jon Favreau as a director, and I love his movies for the most part. And Chef is one of my favorite films in the last 10 years. But his direction in Lion King wasn't that great. And the reason that I say that is most of the time when you're not hearing good voiceover, it's more a matter of bad direction.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when we're doing VO, we're doing it solo. We don't know the energy of the other people that are in the scenes with us. We don't know. We're trusting, obviously, the director, and the producers are trusting the director to tell everyone, what the energy of the scene is, where everybody is, spatially speaking.
Yeah.
And for instance, there are scenes in The Lion King where two characters are talking and they turn away from each other and walk away from each other, and there's no change in the energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yet, if we were doing that scene in real life, we were doing that on stage, your energy and your volume is going to change.
Yep.
And where you're directing what you're saying is going to change, and it's going to be differently done, and it's going to strike the ear differently. Yeah. I worked on a video game called Destiny 2, in which I got to do scenes with Frank Langella.
Ugh.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, tell me about it.
Wow.
I've loved Frank Langella since I saw him in the 12 Chairs in like 1974.
Yep.
Okay? Yep. And then, of course, Dracula.
Right.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Let me fan myself. Let me fan myself with the sexy Dracula.
Right.
So, and my inspiration as an actor playing intelligent villains. He's just so good at it, and he's just got that wonderful tone. And of course, I didn't know I was working with him until the game was released. Yeah. And yet, if you check out the scenes, you don't know we're not in the same room together. That is some brilliant direction, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and I say that whether it's anime or animation or video games or whatever.
Right.
If it's working, give a lot of that credit to the director.
Yeah.
If it's not working, I
then who to point the finger at.
I'm not going to say that. Any more questions?
Yes, a couple.
Okay.
You have, just like myself, you have done so much Digimon stuff. I think in some ways more than I have, which is shocking because I've done a lot. But dude, I took a look at your stuff. Question that came in from one of the people watching us is, in your years of voicing Digimon characters, is there a favorite that you have?
Is there a favorite?
Yeah.
Oh, please. I mean, that's ridiculous. You knew who my favorite was.
I have to ask, when you auditioned for that, because I'm assuming
I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea. Nope. But go ahead and ask your question.
Well, what made you come up with the idea to make Hawkman English? Hawkmoth.
I don't know. But what I do know is that the voice and energy, and somebody reminded me of this years later because I couldn't remember it. And then somebody brought it up at a convention. I said, wait a second, you're ringing bells for me here. It was based on the Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop
Oh, yes.
commercial.
Oh, my
Okay,
God.
from when we
Yeah,
were kids.
totally.
But Mr. Owl was not British. Okay, so I'm not really sure where the British part came from. So it was mostly the attitude.
Yeah.
Okay, and so it was, Mr. Owl, how do you get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop? I don't know. Let me see. 1, a 2, a 3, 3. And so I just remember thinking, a 1, a 2, a 3, 3.
That's
And
priceless.
so it was just, this pretty attitude of, oh, fine, you want to know? Give me your candy and let's find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have literally, because it's 20 years later, no idea.
Right.
I mean, some auditions I remember. I remember the audition for Robots in Disguise in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't read for Optimus Prime.
Oh, really?
Really.
Okay.
I read.
Do tell.
I read for a couple of Decepticons
Okay.
and one Autobot who was called X-Brawn. And he was a Southern SUV. And I literally remember my thought process on this because it's like, he's Southern. That's easy. Just go ahead and lay on a Southern dialect.
Right.
But here in L.A., people have SUVs and they drive them, on Rodeo Drive. They drive them on Sunset Boulevard. They're not SUVs. They're just offices on wheels. But in the South, in the American South, you take a 4-wheel drive, you take that off road.
Mm-hmm.
You take a 4x4 off road, you're gonna kick up some rocks in that undercarriage. You're gonna get some texture in that voice. So basically, that's what I gave him. I gave him a Southern textured gentleman. Howdy, ma'am. My name is X-Brawn. And I literally, and this was, we auditioned over on Wilshire, over at the old building on Wilshire.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay, you remember?
Yeah.
From the ages and ages ago.
Right.
And I'm walking out of the booth past the control room, and I looked in the control room, and there was a freeze frame of Optimus Prime just locked in on the monitor. And I looked at it, and I could hear. And I was not a Transformer fan from the 80s. I was 17 when it came out. I guess I, at the moment, wasn't into toy-based shows or shows that were giant commercials for toys or whatever. What started that off for me, basically, was I had G.I. Joe, the tall G.I. Joes, the real G.I. Joes, the 12-inch G.I. Joes.
Right.
And the Mego action figures, not dolls, action figures, people, action figures. But those all articulated at the ankles and wrists and elbows.
Right.
So that when the Star Wars figures came out in 1977, I wanted nothing to do with those. Because it's like, what can you do with those? Their arms don't bend, their knees don't bend. What kind of lightsaber fight are you going to have with this stiff-armed, idiots going, So I wasn't interested in those. And those were followed by the G.I. Joes, which also didn't articulate beyond the hips and the shoulders.
Yeah.
Again, not interested. So when Transformers came out, it's like more stuff. Even though my brothers had similar things in the 60s of toys that like transformed, they were like spy gear.
Right.
So it would transform from looking like a camera to a gun.
Right.
Things that, of course, you'd never be allowed to make now.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just a notepad, but now it's a gun. Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch the show. I didn't listen to it, and yet I could hear as clear as a bell. I could hear Peter Cullen's voice. That's how iconic he is in my head. And I literally turned to the director of the auditions and I said, "Hey, can I read for that?" And he looks at me and says, "Nah, we have plenty." And so I went home. Well, days or weeks later, I get a call from Jamie, and he says, "Hey, Neil, you know that thing that you did for that Southern character?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "The producers want to know, can you do that without the Southern dialect?" And I said, "You want to know if I can do a voice I created without a dialect I added on?" "Yeah." And he goes, "Great, because they think you sound like Optimus Prime and they don't have enough time to audition you, so they just want you to record the pilot."
Wow.
So, well, the first job I had ever done for Jamie was a show called Tenko and the Guardians of the Magic, which I told a bunch of people that I had recorded. And when I knew the air date of the episode, people tuned in and watched. And my character, Tad, the seismologist, who makes his appearance like in the water, swimming underwater, and he swims up and pops his head out of the ocean and says his first line, and somebody else's voice came out of his mouth. And so, having had that experience as literally one of my first jobs, you record it, but don't make the final cut.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody that I was Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Okay? It's literally like, because Jamie said, if they like it, then we'll just keep going, because we just don't have time to audition.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool. So, sorry, taking a drink of water.
No worries. I love the story, dude.
But,
awesome.
yeah, so that was, and of course, then that ends up morphing into, we had two different directors on the show. One who worked on the show in the 80s, and one who was new to the show. Okay? And so they both directed me two different ways. And because it was dubbing and the character had a shield over his mouth, I was able to do whatever they wanted.
Right.
So the guy who did the original show would have me slow it down. We'd take words out so that I could make it more like John Wayne, more like what Peter Cullen did in the original 80s version. Slow it down. Give it that John Wayne swagger.
Right.
And the other guy would add words because he was making it more action-oriented. So those episodes tended to be more like this, where you get an Optimus Prime who was a bit more determined, had a lot more energy. And neither one of them knew it until we were doing BotCon in Indiana in 2002, and somebody asked at the panel we were doing, "Why in some episodes are you like this, and in some episodes you're like this?" And I had one director literally on my right and another director on the left. And I said, because he directed me that way and he directed me that way. And they both said, "Why didn't you tell us?" And I said, "I thought it was my job to do what the director told me to do." Look, just because I'm playing the powerful leader doesn't mean I'm a powerful leader in real life. I'm a nebbishy guy who's happy to have an acting job.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I believe this was another Studiopolis venture. I could be completely mistaken, but I've got a couple of questions in regards to Tokyo Pig.
I think that may have also been Studiopolis. First of all, whoever is asking about Tokyo Pig, I hope you're following me on Twitter,
Tyler,
Okay,
Tyler, did you
or
hear that? Follow Neil
or
Kaplan on Twitter if you're not
or
following him
a
already.
fan on Facebook, on my
Yes.
Facebook fan page, Neil
Okay.
Kaplan voice actor.
Okay.
Identify yourself because you are a rare jewel. That was a nutty, nutty show. That's actually a show that I bought several DVDs of and gave those to friends of mine who
Really?
had kids. Yeah, I loved that show. It was nuts. Yeah, so what's the question?
Oh, just if you remember doing the show. That's all.
What's funny is I don't remember the voice of the character.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I heard 2 seconds of it, I would remember it. But I just remember I loved the visuals of that show. I think it's a I I want to say gorgeous because I love the colors, but it's clownish, it's cartoonish, it's garish. I find it to have sort of a unique look in anime to a certain extent, and just the writing was very clever.
Yeah.
We had a good time with it. I think it's worth checking out, and yeah, I think you can still get the DVD on eBay.
All right. There you
You
go.
know,
Cool.
but yes, fun show, fun show.
Um, One of my longtime watchers and listeners, Ashley Bork, um, wanted to know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be related to Digimon, although I know both of those actors appeared in multiple occasions on several of the shows. But he wanted to know if you ever had the opportunity to run into or meet or spend time with Robert Axelrod and Bob Pappenbrook.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, great guys,
Yeah.
great guys. I mean, and of course to see the man that Bryce has grown up to be is certainly a joy. Makes me feel like an old uncle,
Yep.
But Pappy was a great guy. Pappy was I still think somewhere I have the program from his funeral,
Mm.
from his memorial service,
Yeah.
because he was the first of my colleagues down here that we lost.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, great guys. And look, I mean, Robert, I mean, wonderful man, and it literally would like cause me pain when I would see him, and know what he was going through. I
Yeah.
mean, and I mean, these guys were two of the nicest guys you could ever hope to meet.
Yep.
You know, Givers in the communities that they were members of, not only voiceover, but the other stuff that they were involved in.
Hmm.
Um, if memory serves right, Pappy was heavily involved in the scuba community, and fairly have and I believe was I hope I don't get the discipline wrong, but I mean a karate coach. I mean it was definitely martial arts,
Mm.
but a coach and a mentor. Um, but good guys,
Yeah.
real good
Absolutely.
guys.
I have a question that hasn't been asked yet for you, but I was just curious because it sounds like we both ran similar paths in the voiceover industry when we started. You started before I did, but have you always, like, ever since you were a kid, have you always been an actor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've always been an actor, and I've always done voices. Um, and pretty much, I mean, I gave up my on-camera pursuits a long time ago
So you
because
did stuff on camera.
not really. I mean, I did stuff on stage,
Okay.
I I pursued on camera. I did one short film that I was the lead in
Mm-hmm.
for the Drew Carey Film Festival.
Okay.
Um, no, Drew, when he had his show, Drew would support artistic pursuits by his staff and crew.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if it was annually or it was just this one year, but he basically gave everyone a budget to go out and make short films.
Yeah.
And I worked on one, and we had the film festival over at Warner Brothers, and Drew was very complimentary about my performance. I had a great time making it. It's like I've said for years. Anybody wants to invite me, I'll come and do it. Just don't make me audition.
Right.
But I just fell out of love with the process. By comparison, fell deeply in love with the process of voiceover, and was perfectly okay giving that up. Had I known 20 some odd years ago when I gave that up, that giving up being on camera would probably be more of a hindrance to my voiceover career than a help, I never would have given it up.
Right.
You know, but at this point, if I would have been doing it for 20 some odd years, I probably would have had an under 5 in a show here and there, or maybe even a guest spot.
Right.
You know, and then you got something to send to people, or people go, "Oh yeah, I saw you on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Be on my cartoon."
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know. Well, I mean, look, it's understandable. You know, and the way that I really understand it is, I met a writer once who wrote a book. She's written many books, Christy Golden. She writes, I think, pretty much exclusively now for Blizzard. But she's written World of Warcraft books and StarCraft books, and she wrote one StarCraft book, and we met, and it was part of one of the main characters was my character from StarCraft 2, and she said how easy it was to write the character because she could hear his voice.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So sometimes if somebody watches an episode, a couple episodes of Happy Days, and they write a character and it's based on the Fonz, maybe they do ask Henry Winkler to audition for it, if not read it, because they've always had his voice in their head.
Right.
So so I don't have an issue necessarily when it's good casting.
Mm-hmm.
I never have an issue with it. I don't care how famous the person is.
Right.
Okay? You can search the world over, you're never going to find anybody better than Ellen DeGeneres to play Dory.
Right.
Okay? So don't look. And I'm never going to have a problem with stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you know, I worked on a film that was actually nominated for Best Animated Feature called Klaus.
Oh yeah, I saw that movie, dude. Who did you play in it?
Thank you. I was the guy who, about middle of the movie, when the two families are meeting,
Yeah.
because they're not really happy about how things are developing,
Right.
and they're having a meeting in the middle of the night by torches, and Joan Cusack is listing off all the quote-unquote horrible things that have happened as a result of people getting along
Right.
and being nice to each other. And I'm the big guy in the back of the Ellingbows who goes, "Brunches! Don't forget about the brunches!" And then the scene continues, "And the brunches! Don't forget the brunches!"
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, that was me. A lot of people thought I was at the beginning of the movie, including my wife, who thought that I was the officer at the beginning of the film, but I'm pretty sure that was J.K. Simmons. Okay?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But I'm not going to have a problem with the fact that that movie stars Joan Cusack, Jason Schwartzman, J.K. Simmons, because they're all great in their roles.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, they're
Yeah.
all really good. You know, and sometimes you get the movie produced because you got Mike Myers playing the ogre
Right.
and Eddie Murphy playing the donkey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you're able to get the movie, the funding for the movie, which then allows, Steve Prince and Neil Kaplan to actually play two-line roles.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you and I grew up when Disney made an animated film every 7 years, like I said before.
Right.
As opposed to this year, or in 2019, there were 32 films that were submitted for Best Picture consideration. For
What?
Best Animated Feature. 32 films.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
So imagine if we went back to one every 7 years.
Right.
Or one every 3 years because, hey, every now and then you get a really bad Jetsons movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, look, the Jetsons was a great series. They never made a good Jetsons movie. Right? Plain and simple. Anyhow,
let me see if I can. Oh,
where am I?
Happy Cricket. Happy Cricket. Do you remember that film? If so, do you have a favorite memory about it?
Aside from doing it with Ruben Arvizu, I have no memory of it whatsoever.
All right. Well, there you go.
I remember doing. It's one of these things that if I saw a 2-second clip, I'm sure I would remember a bunch of things.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I mention at conventions is, when you do a play, when you do a movie, when at this point I think even you do motion capture, when you memorize your dialogue and it gets trapped and the dialogue gets trapped in brain cells, you actually have memories of things.
Yeah.
When you walk into a room that has a microphone in it, just like hundreds of other rooms with microphones that you've walked into, and you walk up to a music stand that has pieces of paper or an iPad on it, and you read lines and you walk out, there's not a whole lot of stuff to get trapped in brain cells to give you memories.
Right.
It's like, I now will actually try to write down a line so that when somebody says, "What was your favorite?" It's like, "Oh, this was my favorite."
Right.
I did a video game. I don't remember anything about the video game. I don't remember what video game it was, but I do remember one line. And the only reason that I remember the line is because I made fun of it. I looked at it and I read it like Bullwinkle. I said, "I strike from the shadows." Just because it would be something funny to say like as Bullwinkle. Right. I strike from the shadows. Hey, Rock, guess what I do? I strike from the shadows. I have no idea. At this point, can't remember the game, can't remember the character, remember nothing about it other than I strike from the shadows.
Yeah.
I remember the Digimon movie. I don't remember recording my dialogue as Hawkmon for the Digimon movie.
Yeah.
But I do remember my 2 one-line characters.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because of what happened around them. One was I was the voice of, there's this quick cut where they're like showing what kids are doing. I guess I think as the missile is flying. Where it's earlier in the movie. I don't even remember, but somebody's looking at a laptop and there's a cat face on the screen. And the line is, thank you for coming to meow.com. And I did, thank you for coming to meow.com. And I actually, did it much better at the time, but did it in the one take.
Right.
Thank you for coming to cat.com and doing the actual cat sound. And so that one stuck in my mind because it was like, I don't remember whether I was working with Bob or I was working with Jeff at the time, but it was like, if you want to do those separate, we can edit them together. And me, I wanted to get it in the one take. It's like, I can do it in the one take. Let me just get it.
Yeah.
And the other line was, the kids are taking a test, and there's a teacher up in the front of the room. And I had just, for some reason, when we would be between takes, I would keep doing Edwin. Okay? Edwin, the uncle from Mary Poppins.
Yep.
The crazy uncle.
Yeah.
I love to laugh, don't you know? So I would just do that character. And for some reason, I would just pull it out and do it, and Jeff or Bob would just be, all right, stop it. Well, much like I would do Bullwinkle when we were recording Robots in Disguise in between takes. It would be like, I would say, Optimus, transform! And so that's where my character Optimus was born. So I do the same thing at Digimon. I would just kind of screw around in between takes. I was a kid. I had a lot more energy.
Yeah.
So, Jeff gives me the line number.
Right.
And I turn to it, and it's just one word. And he looks at me, and I swear to you, he says, now. And I look at him, furrow my brow, and say, and ask, now? And I swear he leans in, for emphasis, and presses the talk back. Now. And the line from the Digimon movie is, finished!
Oh, God.
So I got to do my Edwin, which I had been trying to shove down their throats for years. So yeah, and so because there's a story involved with both of them, those lines I remember.
Yeah. Oh,
recording Hawkmon, one of the main things I remember about Hawkmon, and I will not mention any names, was we had one castmate. And because we started the show over on Wilshire, and then we did a whole bunch of sessions over at that other sound place.
Oracle,
right?
Yes.
That just had the teeny tiny little booths.
Yes.
But we had one castmate who used to wear a lot of perfume.
Okay.
And if you came into the booth at any point after she had been there, not even just the session immediately, you could have been 2 or 3 actors afterward, but you would say, oh, was blankety blank here? And they'd be like, yeah. It's like, gee, I couldn't tell.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. But somebody who I think at the time I may have had a crush on up until that point. And then I kind of went,
yeah.
No, thank you.
I don't know if your story is similar to mine in terms of how you got involved with Digimon. But I'm going to take a stab and a guess that I would say at least a small portion of it probably had to do with your involvement in Power Rangers.
Yep, I would think so.
Okay. Do you remember when you first auditioned for the Power Rangers franchise? Like what that was like?
I don't remember the audition, but I do remember I saw an ad in Dramalog.
Yes.
I saw an ad in Dramalog and sent my demo.
Okay. Now, do you remember the first thing that you worked on for Power Rangers?
Nope.
Okay.
Not only do I not remember, but I didn't remember what season I started.
Okay.
And so one day I'm flipping around, and land on HBO, and they're showing the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie.
Okay.
And I remember sitting here on the couch and thinking, oh, that would have been fun to work on. And then I hear me go playing an Oozman, getting into a fight and being splattered against the wall. And suddenly I can remember coming up with those voices with everybody,
Right.
and so my next thought is, oh, it was fun making that movie. So obviously, I started with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the season before the movie came out.
Okay.
So I can't remember whether the movie came out between season 1 and season 2.
Mm-hmm.
No, it came out between season 2 and season 3 because I didn't work on season 1. I started working on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers literally in season 2.
Wow. Yep. I'm getting confirmation on that from some of your fans as well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I had a very similar experience to you. It wasn't through Dramalog though. I think it was through Backstage West.
No,
No,
I
no,
just,
Hollywood
I,
Reporter.
nope, nope. I'll guarantee you, it was probably Dramalog.
Really? You think?
Yep, yep,
Well,
yep.
because by the time that I got involved, that was like it would have
They
been.
wouldn't, they wouldn't spend the money to advertise in a Hollywood Reporter.
But here's the thing that I remember, and maybe I'm just remembering it wrong.
Uh huh.
But when I got involved, that would have been technically what would have I think would have been the 5th season of
Okay.
Power Rangers. So it
Okay.
was like 3 years after you got involved when they
Okay.
started Power Rangers. Shoot, no, I can't remember. But anyway, it was no Turbo actually wasn't it. Jeff B. It was the season before that. But here's what I remember. Whatever
Okay.
it was, I remember seeing this full page ad,
Okay.
and I had almost given up because I was like calling all the. Remember at the time that you could actually call up studios and like talk to somebody?
Yeah, I never actually did that, but
and
yeah.
and and they had phone numbers for all these people, and so I called the phone number that was, and I didn't
Right.
know who Saban was. There was
Right.
just another company to me. I was just
Right.
saying, please let me send you my demo.
Right.
I'll snail mail it to you because at that time we only had the audio tapes, the
Yep.
cassette tapes.
Yep.
And Karen Carter, you remember Karen?
Uh.
She was Saban's secretary, African
Okay.
American lady,
Okay.
and she answers the phone, and here I am, just totally frustrated, ready to give up, and she
Uh,
answers the phone, and I say, I go through my spiel, and I said, I was wondering if I could send my demo tape to you, and she goes, hang on a second, and I go, okay. And so for me, it seemed like an eternity, when it was probably only like maybe 20 seconds or 30 seconds or
right.
whatever. And I didn't know what was going on, and so I kind of checked in with her, and I said, "Hey, are you still there?" And she goes, "Would you hang on a second? I'm taking a look at my calendar." I'm going, "Oh, sorry," and she goes, "Okay, so what are you doing next Tuesday?" I'm going, I don't know why. She goes, well, I was wondering if you'd like to come in and audition for this new series that we're doing on Power Rangers. I'm going,
Right.
you don't want me to send in my demo tape to you? She goes, why do I need you to send me a demo tape when I'm talking to you on the phone?
Right.
So just very, very matter of fact, but that was
Yeah.
that.
It's not like most people involved in voiceover are actually interested in this job, you know.
Exactly.
The people who are recording in Burbank aren't interested in the money we pay, so
Right. Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my memory of
Very
Power Rangers,
nice.
which
Yeah, well, again, that's a
led
lot
into
more. That's a lot more memorable.
right, exactly, then actually
You
recording.
know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep. I mean, I remember sitting in Scott's office. I remember chatting with
Mm,
Susie. I remember passing different Power Rangers in the hall who would never say
yes.
it, who would never utter a single word to me.
Right.
You know, which
Yes.
was which was most of them.
Yep.
Um,
I remember sitting with Scott and David and waiting, to go in and record, and you'd have a Power Rangers in there before me, and I'm
right.
going, oh God, you need to get somebody else to like redub his voice when you're. It's like you could tell there were some actors that just weren't meant to do voiceovers.
No comment. Well, but that gave me such a complex that literally Johnny Young Bosch and I worked on a movie last year,
Yeah.
and we were at a screening of it, and I'm still surprised anytime Johnny or Jason David Frank recognize me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you remember? Oh, how nice!
Right.
Oh, how nice! Seriously, it's like you know, because some of the more original ones, they've been introduced to me a half a dozen times, and it's still like,
Mhm.
what? It's like, okay, I picked up on your shtick already. Okay, I
Mhm.
got it. I got it. You know, or every now and then when people ask me, well, Neil, they have Power Rangers who go to conventions down in South America. Why don't they invite you? It's like, because Walter's face was always Walter.
Yeah.
My voice was somebody else. So they're not quite as interested in, oh, you voiced the character I didn't hear?
Mhm.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so,
I have to ask you, sir, because you
okay.
have done so much stuff. I mean,
Ha.
between video games and anime and original animation, and in those three specific categories,
Uh-huh.
can you say anything in regards to like maybe a couple of your favorites from each of those that you recall, having fun voicing? I mean, we all have fun voicing whatever we get a chance to voice because, hey, we're getting paid for it. But I mean, if there's
Sure.
if there's anything specifically that stands out to you
Look,
in regards to original animation or video games or anime.
I mean, at this point, it's like the two jobs that I hated stand out more than the jobs that I loved.
Mm,
Because they were so unique in their activities. One was a video game where I played a racist
oh,
in the 1960s. It was
okay,
Mafia. It was Mafia 3,
okay.
and there were very few lines that I felt comfortable saying.
Mm,
Didn't matter. I had to do it. I had to bring my A game. Otherwise, the good guy in this, the protagonist,
right.
isn't as heroic because, and I mean, people behaved, not just then, but people can behave in heinous ways.
Yeah.
And when we play those heinous characters, in order to tell the story properly, we have to do that as well.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
And unlike when I was playing Zarkon, Emperor of the galaxy, who just wanted more and more power, um, I will make him the hero of his own story, and I'll figure out a way to justify his actions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only way to justify the actions of a racist or a hate-filled character like that is just more hate.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't sit there and find things within my soul to justify it. That's when you just have to act,
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, when I first started playing Madara Uchiha, it wasn't necessarily a favorite, to the point where they literally would have to play previous takes to remind me what the character sounded like.
Mm-hmm.
But by the end, I really kind of dug walking in that arrogance, you know. Um, and Madara taught me a lot about playing a quote unquote villainous character, but doing it in the fashion of, I am the hero. I know better than you. You only view me as a villain because you disagree.
Right.
And he helped me discover a lot of that and learn a lot of
Mm.
that. Video game wise, I mean, I loved playing Tychus Finley. I love any old time I get to throw on them big metallic boots.
Right.
What I love, is there is a Facebook fan page for StarCraft 2. and I am one of the people who has liked the page.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I don't go there and interact a lot because I'm one of those actors. I don't like fans on my Facebook page. I have a fan page for that because my friends and my family don't give a darn about somebody who loved this episode of this or this episode of that,
Right.
or are blowing smoke up my behind because they like a character. It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
My friends and family don't want to hear that, so I keep that separated. And conversely, maybe parts of my personality are things that I don't want fans to be exposed to. I want to be able to discuss my personal politics and not have it, like influence your like of something, or I want to discuss my family or put up things that are personal and I don't want to share with fans. And so I keep that distance.
Mm-hmm.
But last night, because every now and then on my Facebook feed, something that somebody posts on this StarCraft 2 page will pop up on my feed. And somebody wrote, how many of you loved the character Tychus Finley? So it's like, well, I got to go check this thread out, don't I? So I'm checking it out, and I'm like liking, people who say, me, yes, yes, I did. And I'm like liking those.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious when somebody's going to notice that the actor who played this character just liked their post.
Right.
And so somebody wrote, oh, I love the books, Heaven's Devils, and Devil's Due. Devil's Due was the book I was talking about earlier, that the author could hear my voice, and that's why she said it was easy to write.
Right.
I did the audiobook for Heaven's Devils.
Ah.
Okay? And so I wrote on this guy's thing, you should check out the audiobook for Heaven's Devils.
Mm-hmm.
And this morning the guy liked it, and it's like I'm so tempted to go back and go, 'cause I read it. 'Cause I'm the voice of Tychus Finley. Duh. But that's just. I mean, I prefer to be subtle.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes, just after Voltron debuted, they had a panel at San Diego Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
So a friend of mine was in line waiting to go in, and I was not on the panel. To be fair, I was never on any panel anywhere for Voltron.
Wow.
So
okay.
Yeah, well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were highlighting the Paladins.
Yeah.
And then Lotor was such a big, kind of big sexy hit. They invited him.
Right.
And of course, Cree Summer.
Mm-hmm.
Of course they're going to invite Cree Summer. She's Cree Summer, for crying out loud.
Right.
If she's got the time on her busy calendar to do your panel, you say, "Yes, please."
Yeah.
I mean, I'm me, so I get it. It's like, that's fine. But so I'm waiting outside with a friend of mine who's waiting to get inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I had owned a couple of Voltron T-shirts, but they were old, the original series, not
Right.
from our series. So
Right.
I had made sure to wash them, because it's like, well, now that I can get a Voltron shirt from my series, I don't want these anymore. So I'm like literally, I like wrote on Twitter, I'm looking for people to give these Voltron shirts to. And come and find me. I'm in line. Come and find me.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally at one point say, I said, on the count of three, Freppin' Saw, 1, 2, 3, or no, I think no, because the show, because the show had aired. I said 1, 2, 3, and the whole rapid saw nice and loud. And my buddy looks at me and I go, "You think they know that Zarkon led that cheer?" My buddy goes, "No way." You know. So two people eventually came over to me and they go, "Are you?" I said, "Yeah. Here's the shirt. There you go."
Nice.
So I didn't get into the room with the panel. And it's funny because people ask me, well, why didn't you go up and tell them that you were here? And I said, because if I did that, then there's a fan who wouldn't have been able to sit in a seat. And that's wrong.
Right.
You know, that's
Right.
somebody who waited to see this panel.
Yeah.
You know, so, but as I was leaving, I saw this woman who was cosplaying as Princess Allura, and I looked down and like I still to this day don't know if that was her daughter or her niece or whatever, but her gal must have been like maybe 6 or 7 tops. She was dressed as Pidge. So they were taking a picture together, and I walk up next to Allura, and I said to the person who was putting away the camera, I said, no, take another picture. And they're looking at me like, who is this weirdo who's asking me to take a picture of them with my phone? And so, you know, she takes, and she looks at me and says, I'll tell you in a second why. Just take the picture. And so they take the picture, and I said, and I leaned in and I said, Vrepitsa. And she just kind of goes, or no, I don't think, I didn't say Vrepitsa. I leaned in and said, set a course for Voltron. And she kind of looked at me like, oh my God. I said, hold on a second. So I actually called Bex Taylor Klaus on FaceTime.
Oh, wow.
And she picked up Bex, who played Pidge.
Yeah.
And I said, Pidge, I have somebody I want to introduce you to. Pidge, meet Pidge. And so I turned it around.
Nice.
And yeah, and so it's like, so if I would have gotten into the room to see the panel, I wouldn't have been able to give somebody a Comic-Con that moment.
Right.
So
That's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, look, Voltron was very special. You know, obviously, Robots in Disguise was special because I was voicing an iconic hero who, instead of changing into a tractor trailer, changed into a fire truck.
Right.
And our series premiered on Saturday morning, September 8th, 2001.
Wow.
3 days later, on September 11th, voicing a fire truck took on a whole new meaning.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So, you know, I have always, ever since then, made myself available for charities that support, you know, firemen or anything of that nature. Anybody ever comes to me at a convention and tells me they're a fireman, they get my utmost respect. Yeah, it became something totally different.
Wow.
You know, and certainly that was special. I have another video game that I worked on that has a very special story with regards to the audition, but since it hasn't come about yet, I can't tell you that story.
Yeah.
But it will. I mean, I'll tell you, if you want to ask me off air, I'll tell you about it.
Okay.
Because it's very unique and very special. And you know, I mean, they're different little things. I mean, there's another video game that's coming out soon that might be a sequel to a very popular video game
Mm-hmm.
that might, people might be looking forward to.
Okay.
That I do background voices in, but because the uniqueness of how we recorded those background voices, I'll always remember those sessions.
Right. Right.
You know, I loved playing Hank in the episode of Suits on Love, Death, and Robots
Okay.
because I actually got to work with a couple of the other actors, which because I primarily do video games
Yeah.
and anime, don't get to work with a lot of people, so that was very special.
Yeah.
Dominus Gall from Destiny 2 was very special to me because even though he was a villain, I was able to play him from an honest place of hurt and disappointment, shall we say. Hurt and disappointment, but I just amplified them.
Okay.
Because this was a character who trained and dedicated himself to this one pursuit. And then when he wasn't chosen, it broke him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he made his new pursuit, making them pay. And so, I don't know, I guess as an actor, I understand everything but that last part.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand that last part.
Yeah, right.
I just won't ever live there. I won't ever pursue that. I won't ever make that a part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of it is, I understand dedicating yourself to something.
Yeah.
Heart and soul, and having somebody not see it and choose somebody else.
Yeah. Right.
Right. I look, my mother passed away when I was 19. My father passed away when I was 40. Now, that's still older than a lot of people get to be. Not to bring anybody down, but my wife and I just donated to a GoFundMe for people she's related to by marriage, because these are now 4 kids who, thanks to a pandemic, are orphans. Okay, and these are kids still in elementary school and high school. So I look at that and say, I was lucky. I had my mom till I was 19.
Wow.
Okay, but when I'm an actor and I'm playing this part, who's the last of his race, I can look back on feeling that my lineage is gone. And so you just amplify that. And so it was, Dominus Gall was literally like negative parts of my own personality amplified.
Right.
And so I understood his pain. And so I played that character with, shall I dare to say, a nuance that hadn't been there for a lot of my other work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like with Zarkon, with something that people haven't noticed, but there's a thing with him in the beginning of the series where he speaks a lot slower and he speaks a lot, things are far more in control. And then by the end of his activity in the series, the voice is actually raised up in pitch. The energy level is higher because things are coming apart at the seams.
Right.
And he's losing control. And being able to play a character and have a little bit of an arc is a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
So that certainly stands out in my mind.
Yeah.
Doing audiobooks for Blizzard, and doing characters that I kind of know, the character a little bit and know the actor a little bit, and then kind of imbue that into the book. I did that with a book called I, Mengsk, where I took the actor that I know who played Arcturus Mengsk and kind of brought a little bit of, James Horner, James Harper. Sorry, James Horner is the late composer. James Harper is the actor. But trying to bring some of him into that book and then going online and reading a review of somebody who noticed that was just like, I'm like sitting there going, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
Oh! And I did another book recently where the book is told from 4 different perspectives, and I specifically recorded it so that each one would sound and feel different, to the point where I actually went back and re-recorded a couple of the earlier chapters, because it wasn't something I planned on doing. It was something I fell into and then felt so right. And it's like, let me go back and change those first couple chapters. And I went online and somebody wrote in the review of it that they heard that. And it was so nice for me. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, they got it! Oh my God!" And it was really special, because I'm sitting there, because we record these things, and sometimes there's a thought process, and we wonder, will anyone even notice?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Or will it be so small, so subtle, that people won't even pick up on it, and that's okay too. Mm-hmm. Because we just don't know. We don't get the live applause. So that's why conventions can be so much fun when somebody asks about Tokyo Pig.
Right.
And you go, "You remember that too? Oh my God!" So yeah.
Well, I know that we've kind of 20 minutes kind of gone over 2:00. I do have a couple of questions if you want to do a lightning round really quick.
Sure.
And then we can get those questions answered for some people and then be on our merry ways.
Sure.
Jeff Burns, who's watching us right now.
Hey, Jeffy.
Wanted to know what it was like working with Andrea Romano before she retired.
Well, look, I had the privilege of being forced on her. Okay, because she came into StarCraft 2 after I was already cast and already on it and already working on it.
Okay.
And I believe the same thing with Voltron. So it's like I hope that if she were involved in casting, she would have chosen me, but I don't know for sure.
Right.
So she didn't have a choice with me. And that was a blessing for me. I was like, yay!
Yeah.
Look, I think I already expressed how important I think the director is with regards to voiceover. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, she's the pinnacle of the pyramid, baby. She was it.
Yeah.
And I get it. I understand how very fortunate I was. Okay? And I got to tell you, she also helped me work the pull it back muscle. The less is more muscle.
Right.
I like to think I'm a more versatile actor. I'm a better actor now for having had the privilege of not only working with her as a solo, like with StarCraft 2, but also being able to work with her with an ensemble and hear and watch her work with other actors.
Yeah.
You know, because with voiceover, I shouldn't say voiceover, with acting, a lot of what we learn is internal, so it feels right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the external's not about ourselves. The external is about watching other people put into effect what we think we're doing and then how it comes across.
Yeah.
So, like I say about voiceover, you want to study voiceover, you want to learn voiceover, don't do privates. Do group classes so you can watch other people learn. Because if you're in the booth and you're in the moment, you shouldn't be learning.
Right.
You should be doing.
Yeah.
Or you shouldn't be consciously learning.
Right.
You should be subconsciously, unconsciously learning.
Yeah.
And then watching somebody else put that into effect. Mm-hmm. And that's when you consciously learn and go, oh, that's what I did when I did that thing.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right.
So watching her work with the ensemble, listening to her work with the ensemble, listening to her get second and third and additional takes with other actors was also very educational.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. By the way, Jeff Burns is one of those people, okay, who, you know, speaking of social media,
yes,
actually had to earn his way onto my page.
Oh, is that
okay?
Right?
And I don't say that arrogantly. I say that as I met him as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's like, do me a favor, fan person, join my fan page.
Right.
And he did. And then we kept running into each other at conventions, and we would have conversations, and then I would get to know him a little, and I would feel like, oh, okay, now I know a human being.
Yes.
Now I know a person, okay? Not just a fan of my work or somebody who wants to get into voiceover and thinks that by quote-unquote being my friend, he's going to get some leg up into the industry. I'm still trying to get into the industry 25 years later. I don't know where I'm going to be any help to you.
Right.
Okay? But, you know, and so now I don't think of Jeff as a fan. I actually do think of Jeff as a friend.
Yeah.
You know, and I think of Jeff as somebody who puts together really good panels that people enjoy at conventions. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think of him as an up and coming actor and possibly director.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But he was respectful enough to understand when I said, you know, we're not friends yet. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah. So I'm honored that he is watching and or listening.
Yeah. A completely random question for you, sir.
Okay.
Favorite silent movie?
Silent movie.
Silent movie.
Yeah.
What would it be?
Silent movie.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
There's one word said in it.
Yeah.
By Marcel Marceau. No. I loved silent movie. Now, realistically, I don't know if this person knows, but there is a movie theater on Pico. No, not on Pico, on Fairfax. On Fairfax, that used to be a silent movie theater. And our colleague, Wally Wingert, used to rent it out and have silent movie parties.
Really?
And so he would show shorts and then would show a silent feature. And he had literally like the last professional, original silent movie piano player who would come in and play.
Wow.
And it was some of the most wonderful, spectacular nights to go to those and just have a wonderful, wonderful time. And like, you know, some of we would often not. I don't think we did it for the silence, but for some of the curated shorts, we would kind of go a little Mystery Science Theater 3000y and talk back to the screen or make comments, you know.
Uh-huh.
And so I would get my fair share of laughs from that crowd and always walk out feeling good,
Yeah.
feeling good about myself. But no, look, I mean, I love Lon Chaney's work. I love Phantom of the Opera. I
Mm.
love Hunchback of Notre Dame. Um, a guy I went to college with was actually a grandnephew of Harold Lloyd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're
That's
not
cool.
you're not asking somebody who doesn't know
Yeah, yeah.
the silent era, okay? And I will give you a little piece of Hollywood histoire,
Okay.
okay? Or I'll give you two.
Okay.
Back in the old days of making silent features, Universal Studios,
Mm-hmm.
which was owned by Carl Laemmle at the time,
Right.
actually had studio tours back then.
Okay.
And you would actually have a tour and you'd watch them making the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd go around to the area where they had the animals that they kept
Mm-hmm.
for the movies. And since the area was originally, I should say, because the area, I believe, was originally a chicken ranch,
Okay.
they actually had chickens there. And so when you left, as your souvenir, you got an egg. And they stopped doing that after the silent era because couldn't have people going around where, the movies were being made because they could be heard.
Right. Right.
Okay. And the animals had to be moved because they could be heard as well.
Right.
Now that is factoid number one. Factoid number two involves the movie Singing in the Rain, which of course was about the transition from the silent to the sound era.
Right.
Okay. The character Lena Lamont, who
Uh-huh.
is the famous silent film star who has the voice made for silent films. I can't stand him.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Well, during the film, obviously, when they're switching over and making a sound movie, how are we going to do it? Lena, we can't have Lena's voice. I know. We will have Kathy Selden dub the voice. This was where I first learned about ADR.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where
Yeah.
most of us
Yeah,
were
yeah, yeah.
originally exposed to the idea of ADR
Huh.
or dubbing.
Right.
Okay, so there is a scene in which Debbie Reynolds is in the booth recording, and you see the film of Gene Hagen, and they run it, and I can't remember if they do the three beeps or whatever. I think they do the beep. They're not audio beeps, but they're clicks,
Yeah.
and you see them in the film.
Okay.
So you see it, and Debbie Reynolds opens her mouth and says, and the character Kathy Selden says, "I'll love you till the stars turn cold." And that voice is not Debbie Reynolds.
Oh.
Okay? So the voice for Kathy Selden dubbing for the character Lena Lamont,
Right.
who's played by the actress Jean Hagen,
Right.
is in fact Jean Hagen.
What?
So it's hold on. So it's Jean Hagen dubbing the voice into Debbie Reynolds, dubbing the voice into Jean Hagen.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
So whoever asked that silent movie question, you got a lot more than you were anticipating.
Exactly.
Yes,
Um,
but I actually remember going to see silent movie in the theaters and adored it as a kid. So that is my favorite.
there you
The Burt Reynolds in the shower scene. If you've never seen it, people, fix that.
go. And on that note, my friend,
Yes.
even though we have a ton more questions that are coming in, I do want to be respectful to your time, also to my time. If
Which means you got something else to do, not me. Okay. Well,
but
if you would like,
yes,
you keep those questions, and I'll come back. It's not like we're doing anything these next few weeks.
right? Okay.
I'll come back and we'll do this again, and we'll get those other questions.
And if you want those questions answered sooner, guys, Neil, remind everybody where they can follow you on both Twitter as well as Facebook.
On Twitter, I am Nekap, Nekap. It's like Neil Kaplan minus letters. Also, it sounds like that thing on your leg. You know, that thing that thing that the Star Wars action figures didn't have.
Yep.
A kneecap.
Okay.
And then, of course, on Facebook, my fan page is Neil Kaplan, voice actor.
Neil
If you
Kaplan,
put
voice
in
actor.
Neil Kaplan V, then the first thing that should come up should be Neil Kaplan, voice actor.
There you go. There you go, guys.
Ready?
All right. So, Neil, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate you being with
Good
us
chatting
today.
with you, brother. Always my pleasure. You're one of the good ones, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And
Right.
all of your fans are just loving you and appreciating everything that you have shared with us over the past hour and a half. And stay safe, my friend, until I
All
talk
right.
to
Be
you
well,
again.
brother.
All right.
Take care. Bye now.
Bye, guys.
Take care, everybody.